So, good morning and welcome to the study again. We will read from Revelation chapter 17, verses 4 to the end of the chapter, 4 to 18. Sister Daisy, can you please read those verses? Revelation chapter 17, verses 4 to 18.
The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. This title was written on her forehead: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, now is, and not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now, and is not, and yet will come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, one is, the other have not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. Then the angel said to me, "The waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to give the beast their power to rule until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth." Praise God.
Thank you. So, we saw the Babylon that we mentioned here is not just a geographical location. It is a mystery. Now, if it is just a place, there is no need to mention about mystery. There is no mystery in it. Mystery means not mysterious, but not known. That's what the Bible says. You look at all the word of mystery in the New Testament, you will understand that all those refer to hitherto veiled, but at a particular point unveiled. Mystery of godliness, God was manifest in flesh. Mystery of the church, the Jews and Gentiles combined together to form one body. So you look at mystery of iniquity, the Antichrist is going to come in the end. I mean, we don't know yet who he is, but it's going to reveal himself. So it's going to be a kind of an unveiling in a particular time. So the mystery Babylon that we are talking about here, with the two major aspects I told you. One is the religious or the ideological aspect to this Babylon, which is a system. And I told you that system did not start anytime now. It was an ancient system which originated from the time when Noah came out of the ark, and the descendant Nimrod, and ancient records point to the fact that it was Nimrod who tried to bring in this development of a kingdom or a group of kingdom, where he wanted to develop himself and make a name for himself, and a kind of a rebel before God. And many ancient records also inform us that idolatry started from somewhere during that time, and it was taken forward, and because of the Babel, the scattering that happened, it spread to different parts of the world. So basically that system is rebellious, it's against God, and it is a system that want to bring people under its umbrella. That's a religious setup, and it's worshipping false god or false ideas, man-made ideas. Okay, and this, the way in which people are brought into this system is by money, power, and by status and position. Why would people get into something like this? Because the power and prestige that it offers. We know that when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, one of the temptation was that the devil showed him all the glories of the earth. And he said, worship me and I will give you all this. So you see a close connection between worshipping of the evil one and commercial benefit or profit, money. So religion and money. So not that people would like devil, or they love the devil or anything, but they will bow down to him to get something. So I told you yesterday that the love of money is the root of all evil. And this woman who's sitting is attracting people with her wealth, with the gold and precious stones and pearls and everything. You come, I'll give you this. And the cup, it's a kind of a golden cup she has in her hand. So it's very tempting, alluring. This woman is trying to lure people or kings of this world to herself because of the money and because of the status and the power and all those material possession that she offers. And this is basically from the devil, because the devil offered this to Jesus in exchange of worship to him. And our Lord said, no, you're only to worship your creator God, and only him thou art worship. So that was flatly denied by Jesus, and we as children of God should also deny this temptation, that I'll give you power, I'll give you money in exchange to worship to me. No, you can keep your money. And that should be our attitude. And if we are not careful, this ideology of bowing down to worldly system because you want to become rich is very tempting, and it's one of the reasons why many Christians are migrating to better countries, or better in searching for better lifestyle and all that, and forgetting that that life or the culture that you're trying to transplant yourself and your family and your children and all that is seeping into the lives of people. I'm not naming any particular countries, but I have my own relatives who live in the United States and other places, where 30, 40 years they have lived there, and they've been completely swept into that culture. The children, not them maybe, but their children or their grandchildren. So you see, we have to be very careful. This temptation is all there for us. And I believe that when God has put you in a particular place or made you to be born, He could have put you anywhere in the world. It's easy. Why did He chose you to be born in India? For a very specific reason, right? So it's good to ask the Lord before you migrate to certain places and go. And people think it is, oh, God blessed me with the opportunity to migrate. But did you ask? It is very intriguing that when we hear testimonies of people who are planning to go, it's something like this. The testimony will go something like this. By God's grace, I have got an opportunity to go or migrate to so-and-so country, and I'll be traveling on so-and-so date. And I would request all believers to please pray for me that God will help me and give all journey mercies, and will be able to live there for God's glory. So this would be the common kind of testimony that we hear of people going migrating. But have you ever heard? I'm just asking. Have you ever heard testimonies like, brother, I'm thinking of going abroad, or going or migrating to this country, or taking up this migrating this place. I would like you guys to pray for me, that I want to know whether it is God's will or not for me to go. Very rarely, I'm not saying no one asked, but very rarely that you hear testimonies like that. Why? Because you've already made up your mind. You've already decided to go. Now what you want prayers that the plane will not fall into the Atlantic, while you're going from here. I mean, that's the kind of prayer that you're requesting. I mean, you have already made up your mind. You never asked God, or you never wanted the prayers of people to decide whether that is the right decision to make, but you want God to protect you, God to give you, prosper you in that country. I doubt. Now this lure is why I bring up this point is, when there is famine in the land in the Old Testament, it is a common temptation to run to Egypt. Okay, that means let's leave this place and go. But I want to just mention to you the incident of Isaac, that when famine happened, God said, be there, and he sowed that year of famine, and he got 100-fold. So it's possible for God to guide you and help you even in times of famine. Okay, even in times of less economic situation, God is able to guide us and lead us forward. That's where faith kicks in. So this lure is so high, and the temptation to have a better lifestyle is so high, that very well-meaning people have gone there and got stuck. They're not able to do, because once you go there, you buy a house, and next 15-20 years you can't go out. Your plans are all set by the government, by the people who gave you the loan. You have to pay back the loan, and you're stuck. Even if God calls you for full-time ministry, you can't go, because you have to pay back the debt. You're already deep in debt, and this is the way in which the devil hooks people to the system. So please beware. Okay. So then another thing that this woman is doing, not only that it is luring you with money and all that, it has got the other side. So there are two things to the system. One is trying to lure you, trying to bribe you, trying to come to you nice way, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, and all that. And once the system recognizes that you will not fall into that trap, that you're denying that, then the next tactic of the system is what we see in verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Now, you look at the history of Christianity. in the last 20 centuries. Where did they get the most opposition from? Either it will lure you to join the majority or the state religion or the majority ideal or the nationalistic movement. But once they recognize that you will not follow that line, then you are branded as counter-revolutionaries or state enemies or rebels, and you are treated as traitors. So this is the challenge that the church, the true church, had faced in the last 20 centuries. When you are asked to respect your authorities, that's what we read in Romans chapter 13. The Bible always gives us command to respect the authorities and respect the rules and obey the rules. But the problem comes when the system brings in rules that are contrary to what God has said. Then what do you do? Or for example, the emperor asks people to worship him. You can't. Them or the system tells you not to read the Bible, not to pray, not to go to church, not to break the Lord's Supper. What do? You have to go against it. So there is this conflict that happens when the worldly system or the authorities or the religious majority will try to impose their laws and the regulations upon true Christians, genuine Christians. What happens is they will resist, because it is, as Peter said and the apostles said, you say whether it is right in the sight of God to obey you rather than God. So when there is this conflict between the authority of God and the authority of man, always authority of God takes precedence. So this is also the case when it comes to relationship, right? We have our parents and our authorities and all that. So when we have to obey them, we have to be subject to them. But when this conflict comes, when the authority of God is called into question, then we have to obey God rather than man. So that's very clear. So this disciples of Jesus over the last 20 centuries, they were law-abiding citizens. But when the law of the country is against that of God, they had to disobey quietly. And what happened was they were tortured, they were mistreated, they were killed. And if you look at the history, you will know from AD 33 to 1900, there were 14 million Christians, believers, massacred, killed as martyrs, recorded. Unrecorded, we don't know, in many different countries. But in the last 100 years, it's very astonishing. The last 100 years, from 1900 to this, to the beginning of this century, 26 million Christians have been massacred. It is astonishing to find that genuine believers, elect of God. So altogether, if you look, approximately 40 million Christians are massacred in the last 20 years. In the last 100 years, you see this great massacre that happened in Turkey, where Armenian Christians were butchered. Uganda, what happened in Uganda when Idi Amin came. Sudan, still going on. The communist Russia, China, these are some of the Iran, Saudi Arabia, all these places you see, and India is just on the verge. We are simmering. We don't know when it will boil over. So this system is really, whether it is Islam or whether it is nominal Christianity. I mean, you'll be astonished to find how many Christians or true believers are killed by the church in the Middle Ages. You look at, I mean, I recommend you to read the Fox's Book of Martyrs. You will see the list of martyrs there. And the way in which the religion and the state were joined together into a state religion, and where it had the power to execute people. Some of those names are very familiar to Christians, and I don't want to take it. You can read in the history and you will see that how they used their state power to punish those who questioned them or who stood for what they believed was true. You will see people like Anabaptists who taught about adult baptism, right? How they were persecuted by so-called reformers. You'll be astonished, you'll be shocked. So I believe in every generation, this system is trying to impose its power upon people. Well, Jesus never, ever imposed things by force. He said, my kingdom is not of this world. How can anyone who is believing in Jesus and upon a Lord who said, my kingdom is not of this world, if it were so, my servants would have fought for it. My soldiers would have taken arms and fought against it. But my kingdom is not of this world. That means I am talking about a different kingdom. It's a kingdom within the heart where people are free to make their choices. Even in that final Laodicean period, when the church of list of churches returned to the 7 churches, Jesus is out. Actually, it's outside the church, and yet the church is supposed to be the body of Christ. Is supposed to be consider that Christ is the head. You know, it's just pushing the head outside, and yet still head is not trying to impose. He says, I stand on the door and knock. That means he's a gentleman. He will wait for your consent. Not like the world religions, not like the way that this woman in all its power had used her power and abused her power in order to punish those who believe in Jesus. Those who forced their way in. So this is characteristic of false religion or false ideologies. You can have a list of them if you look at the history. So this woman is drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So John saw, and he was so astonished with this woman. So picturesque to what is going on. And he was astonished about this mystery. And this angel said unto me, verse 7, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 hearts. And now angel is trying to explain. Now in the Old Testament also, when Daniel saw the vision and was so astonished, it was the angel who came to his help to interpret or to give the interpretation of that vision. Many times we need both, right? A vision itself without a proper interpretation is of no use. Just like that vision that Pharaoh saw. He could explain the vision, but he could not understand the meaning of it. It needed a Joseph to interpret. So it is necessary that we need interpreters. But in the Bible, we have help. We have angels interpreting the dream or vision, and we have the author itself interpreting the vision, or the other parts of the scriptures interpreting the vision. So we have a whole lot of aids and helpers in order for us to understand the vision. So thank God that he appointed an angel to explain that. And what did he say? He said the beast is from 8 to 18 is the interpretation of this vision. What's he saying? The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Obvious reference is to the beast in chapter 13. If you look at chapter 13 and verse 1, I saw a beast arise out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of the blasphemy. So if we're talking about a composite beast, which is not in one way it is a composite beast. Another place, this beast is mentioned as the one which is active in the end times. So this is very typical of the explanations. The woman is also explained like that. It's kind of a system that had fornication or adulterous relationship with the kings of the earth. That means not in a particular timeline. It is spanning over the history of the world. But at the same time, this woman is also explained as a city in particular time and space. So same way as a beast. The beast is also having 7 heads and 10 horns, which is a composite beast, which is a conglomeration of all the beast kingdoms of world history. And yet this beast is a person who lived in time and referred to active in the end times. So so active in the end times. So what we are seeing here is that the Antichrist who is going to come in the last, the harlot or the woman is riding on this beast. So that means the end time scenario is that Antichrist will have close relationship with this woman to start with. So as I told you yesterday, that this idea of one world religion, all the ideologies of the world are going to be brought under one umbrella when the beginning of the rule of Antichrist. But you see towards the end, once Antichrist uses this system, he will get rid of that system, right? So we must see it's very cunning to start with, because here is he knows that there's a lot of power in religion, right? People listen to religious leaders, and you know that in certain religions, when people or the leaders of that religion brings about some verdict, it is taken as a verdict from God and taken very seriously by the followers. So the Antichrist recognizes instantly that you can't get away faith immediately. You can't just demolish churches. You cannot demolish mosque. You cannot demolish gurudwaras just like that, because people are very closely connected to these systems. And so what he does is he will keep them and he will bring them under one umbrella by compromising certain non-contradictory or contradictory terms or contradictory ideas are all rubbed off. They will not allow Christians to say that Jesus Christ is the only way. They will let the leaders say that Jesus Christ is one way. They will not let the others say that this is wrong, and these people say that they are wrong. So they will say that let's not discuss about contradiction. Let's talk about complementary things. Okay, we say you love the humanity. We also say we love the humanity. So we take all the complementary elements of these religions and put them into one melting pot and make it into one whole world religion. Okay, so why is he doing this? Well, because for his own ends. And this is where we explained about this man who is who was and who is not, and it is. Now, this is a parody of what an explanation of Jesus, who was the past and who died, is chapter 1. Chapter 1, when the Lord Jesus was revealing himself to John, he is explaining that I am the one, the first and the last, and I am the one who is, which was, and which is to come. I am Alpha and Omega, verse 8, which is, and which was, and which is to come. So he's trying to replicate, or just to duplicate, or just to have this counterfeit religion to show that I'm also like Jesus. I'm also can say that I was and I was not, and I am now. I think mainly because of that that wound that we saw in chapter 13. That means because of that wound, he could have died, and then he came back, or resuscitated back to life, some kind of miracle that God allowed Satan to perform. And the whole world is wondering about him. How could this man die and then come back? So some kind of deceiving wonder that has been performed on this man, and he's now claiming that I'm also like Jesus, who was once and who died and who rose again. See, but it's a cheap imitation. It's not real, because we know that Antichrist is going to die finally, but Jesus is never going to die. So this is kind of a cheap imitation of who Jesus is, and who said, I am the Alpha and the Omega. So he will make believe people that I cannot be killed, I cannot be destroyed. So I'm kind of God. I'm kind of God, that I have got power over life and death. So he's trying to deceive people into believing that he's some kind of an incarnation of God, or some kind of a visible representation of God, and therefore trying to deceive people. And all those people whose names are not written on the book of life, they will wonder. Now, God has put in us a sense of wonder, in every one of us. And what is the sense of wonder? This wonder of seeking, searching, appreciating, and worshiping the true God. A heart is, somebody said, we have a God-shaped heart, kind of an emptiness within us, which can only be filled by God, big enough, a heart's heart that is big enough. And this is very evident as we grow up. When we were children, we could scare a child by telling a very simple story, right? You can scare a child, a simple animal story, we can scare a child. But as the child grows up, you need more to scare him. Come to the adulthood, people pay money and go to see horror movies. Why? Humans are the only people who pay money to get scared. Animals don't do that. They will run. When they are scared, they'll run. But people will queue up in theaters to pay money to see horror movies. Why horror movies? Why you are paying money to get scared? These are all basically coming from that idea of wonder. You have to fill your heart with wonder, something. Your heart is empty. God-shaped heart, big emptiness is there. So you're trying to fill that with magic. And you say that's why magic is so very popular with children and also with adults. Many of those great writers you see, they are so fascinated by magic, whether it be white magic or black magic or whatever magic. People know that the power of magic is, something that cannot be produced naturally. There is some kind of wonder that is attached to magic. Suddenly something spectacular happened, and it can fill the imagination of people, on children especially, when you bring in magic into your literature or movie. So the world is trying to fill that vacuum within the human heart with that kind of gimmicks and tricks. But they will wonder, those people whose names are not written in the book of life, they will marvel or wonder with Antichrist, because now this Antichrist is an embodiment of everything that the human authors and script makers are all put it before the world powerful leader, number one. And here is a man who was and is not and it is. And one little peek from here, we will get an idea that this man shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, which is called abyss. You know, it's a an abyss is not. It's a prison of the spirits. It's written abyss. You know, we see in Revelation chapter 20 also. So looks like you know that this is kind of a demonic activity here. You know, kind of a demon possessed man. We really don't know what the implication of that is, because the dead usually go to Hades, but here is a man whose dead is coming from bottomless pit. Abyss is basically a prison for the dead, as we consistently see. You know, you see that legions in the Maniac of Gadarene story, where they appeal to Jesus that do not send us to abyss, to that prison of the dead. Let us go to the Styx. So Jesus allowed them to go, and we know what happened. So they were afraid to go to, because it is a prison. It's an area of confinement for them. But here is this person coming out from the bottomless pit and go into perdition finally. So Bible gives that this fellow is not going to live forever. He's going to be perished. He's going to be killed. It's even though he takes this cheap imitation of this title was and is not and it is and so on, he's not going to live for long. And that is the beast that we are talking about. So it is both a picture of the kingdoms of the old, but it is finally represented by this Antichrist. So the 7 heads I'll explain now. So that's what he is trying to say in verse 9. He says, here is a mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now, many people quickly come to the conclusion that, oh, it talks about Rome. Rome is often referred to as the 7 hills, but these 2 words are different in the Greek. The word used here is a mountain. Now, a mountain is very different from a hill. Mountain often refers to kingdoms, especially in the book of Daniel. You see that stone that came to smash in Daniel chapter 2, the stone that came to smash that idol or the image became a mountain and filled the earth. So it became a kingdom. It became a vast kingdom, and it filled the earth. So mountain is pointed to the kingdoms, I believe, the kingdoms, and it's also referred to as where the woman sits. So I believe this verse is referring to the beast kingdoms which were there in the old. As I told you before, that the Lord had asked people to go and to all the world, replenish and fill the world. So that's what God's command was in chapter 1 of Genesis. But man's idea is to bring people together so that they could be under. This is the satanic plan, to bring people under one particular place, cities. And cities are all ideas of the evil one. Where God is asking people to go and spread and multiply, Satan is trying to say, no, come together. So let us not be, scattered all over the world. We will not have power. So when we come together, we will have power. And you know that the cities are the worst places. When sinners congregate, come together, what happens? Sin multiplies. Look at the metropolitan cities of India. Vice, immorality, all kinds of filth, gambling, all kinds of filth are multiplying in the cities. Why? People or students just coming out from villages, they go to cities and suddenly they are sucked into this pool of ungodliness and wickedness and immorality. You're astonished. How can this village girl, go and live this kind of lifestyle? How can this boy from a very quiet village engage in some kind of things like this? You're astonished. Why? Because this is man's idea. So this beast, the seven heads, are representative of also of the seven kings, and this kings and kingdoms are interchangeable. If you read in the book of Daniel, you will see in chapter 7, especially if you see chapter 7, that where it is mentioned kings and there are also mentioned kingdoms. So these are basically referring to seven kingdoms, and very important to realize this. Very important to realize. And we know a mountain cannot fall, in the sense. So it's not a literal mountain or anything. It is kingdoms, basically. It's pointing to kingdoms. And I would like to bring your attention to the seven kingdoms that are going to be there in this world. Today, we cannot see any kingdom, because even though America is the world power or the superpower, it cannot be called a kingdom. The kingdom is where it is ruled by a king with no resistance from the known world. That's what a kingdom is. So you can't see that kind of a thing. Once upon a time, British Empire had a very vast influence of this world, but there were still people who were rebelling against his authority. Russia has 1/6 of the world's land. USSR had a lot of countries under it, but yet there were a lot of countries in the known world who were rebelling. They could not conquer. But in the past, if you see, there were kingdoms and conquerors who conquered almost all the known world. Known world, I would say, civilized world, a known world, and brought it under their dominion, under their rule, and that kingdoms were called empires. So there says it's seven. There are seven kings. So and 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not. So I would like to share the screen and show you that this interesting thing about the 7 kingdoms. Okay. Now, there are 7 empires, okay? And if you look at the world history, most prominent empires, Egyptian empire, dates are all approximate, okay? Because we cannot have true dates, which we already depend on any archaeological evidences to get all these ancient dates. But as we come nearer, we might get more clearer dates. So Egyptian empire was this approximately 2,000 years of unraveled reign by Egyptian kings. The Assyria, from here we know. Then Babylon, the next kingdom. Medo-Persia, I'll explain the map. This we come into more from the Bible, we can be more clear. The Greek, which basically happened between the intertestamental period by Alexander the Great and so on. So Rome, of course, we know from the Bible. And you see the average duration of this empires, the 6 empires that we see here, is 620 years. So when the Bible says in verse 10, here in Revelation 17, verse 10, 5 have fallen at the time that John was writing. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece, they've fallen, they're gone. And the one which was there, one is the Roman Empire. When he was writing in AD 90s, Domitian was the ruler in Rome, and that is going on, that is there. And one is, and the other is yet to come. So the 7th one is yet to come. That will be the kingdom from where the Antichrist will arise. So look at this chart. It's the average is around 600 years of rule per empire, and if you know very carefully, you will see that all these empires had very close relationship with deities. Yeah, you see that. Just give you an idea. Yesterday I told you that the Egyptian gods, the Assyrian, the Babylonian, the Persian, Greeks, they're very religious people in the sense that they had number of gods. You see that 6, 7, at least an average of 6, 7 very prominent gods and goddesses who controlling there. So these emperors are very closely associated with idol worship and worship of deities, sun, moon, god, and so on. So you see now the connection between the kingdoms and the woman. And they're very closely related from the beginning. All these beast kingdoms were riding. The woman was directing them. A woman was guiding. Go here, move here, and these are all directions. And I also proved to you that the prince of Persia or the prince of Greece, there is a force behind which is controlling these beast kingdoms in the past, and it will be true also of the final kingdom that Antichrist is going to come. The devil is going to control him. It will be able to ride on him as well. So I told you about the duration of the empires, and 5 have fallen. The Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo, Persia, and Greece had fallen. The one when John was writing, Rome was active. One is, and not yet arises in the last days of the Antichrist. So this is one way of understanding this situation. Okay, so this composite beast with 7 heads is being brought into picture here. The conglomeration of all this beast kingdoms put together and represented as a beast before us, on which this system is going to ride. So one picture is in the world history, the beast kingdoms are being driven by the false religion or false ideology of this mystery Babylon, the mystery element. In the final scheme of things, that the kingdoms will be represented by the Antichrist, and the woman will be represented by a city. Okay, so this is, I hope that you get the picture. In the composite view, the beast is a combination of all the beast kingdoms, and the woman is a combination of all the gods and goddesses and ideologies and isms of centuries controlling the beast. And in the last days, the beast kingdoms will be represented by the Antichrist and his forces, and the woman will be represented by a commercial city where all these religions are brought together, ideas are brought together, and which also is very much related to commercial activity, where people are attracted, because nobody wants to follow a particular religion for no reason. They will all ask, what do I get out of it? And if I get money and power and status out of this whole thing, then I'll join that. That's how people are. If you can give them money, they will go to any help to get that. They will go to any extent in order to develop that kind of a situation. So this is the kind of representation we have here. So, but I told you that in this average number of years that these people have driven, it's approximately, I'm saying, 6 years. It's a very long period. If you look at all the periods there are initially 2000, then 600, 60, 213, 336, 450. So it's a long period where this empires, the beast empires, reign. But here in verse 2, and the other is not yet to come. When he comes, he must continue a short space, a short time. You see, we know that the final power that this man is going to have, the Antichrist, is approximately 7 years, and out of that only 3.5 years he will have absolute control. So think of that compared to this average 620 years of the previous beast kingdoms. When he is going to come, he must continue a short time. So his time will be very limited, short. But remember that the time will be short, but space is unprecedented. That means the area that he controls will be unprecedented. Just to give you an idea, that the Fertile Crescent, you see the picture on the screen? The Fertile Crescent is what you see in the green. That means the early civilization started out up in Mesopotamia. We know this place. So we see all this mentioned in the Bible. So this Fertile Crescent is a matter of where activity is there. You see Babylon there, you see Nineveh, all those big names. I mean, all those names you will have frequent down to Nile, where this Fertile Crescent is a place where fertility is, where rivers and the water is there. So there is a lot of greenery there. But you see this in between place, this is desert, and nobody will cross from, for example, from Babylon to Jerusalem. They will not. This is shortcut actually. You can just cross it like that. Nobody will cross like this because they know that first of all, the terrain is inhospitable. The camels and the donkeys can't go because this terrain is so hostile to travel. Second, there's no water. It's a desert. So what people do is they take this roundabout route where they can have stop, they can have water, they can have food, they can eat. I mean, all those things are, very, very crucial for the moving of an army. So you see that when the army is going to come and attack Egypt, you'll have to come this roundabout way because the army goes on its belly, right? If you don't give food, the army will die. So the generals are very aware of that. So keep this Fertile Crescent in mind, because what I'm going to show to you about the activity that had happened in the ancient days are mostly centered around this Fertile Crescent. Okay, so let's look at the first Egyptian empire. The toe end of the Fertile Crescent was where Egypt had control over at the known world. The population were less. People had not really gone far away. They're scattered, but they're not scattered far. So Egypt controlled the then known world into this yellow strip that we see. The lower part of the Fertile Crescent was controlled by the Egyptians. And we know that all these empires that we see, they are connected with Israel in some way. And the earliest part we see, even before Israel had become a nation, they were slaves in Egypt for 400 years. And from there, they developed from a family into a nation, right? So this is where very close ties with Israel. Okay, and there are some of these main emperors there. You can recognize Ramses at the time of Moses. Can go look into this in greater detail. So they're connected with us, but you see there. The space is very less. I'm fast forwarding now. Assyrian Empire, look at it's expanded a little bit more. It has gone further east, and Assyria, Nineveh was the capital. So again, the Fertile Crescent, it's mainly focusing upon the Fertile Crescent, and Nineveh was the empire, and you can see the list of empires, emperors, and you can remember some of those names from the Bible. And during the time of, I think, Sennacherib, is where the Israel, the 10 tribes were taken to captivity there, and he had brought in people from Assyria to the middle part, Samaria, where they were transplanted. So you see the list of Assyrian kings there. Yeah, some of them are very, Salmaneser and Tiglath-Pileser are all mentioned in the Bible as well. So they are also very connected, closely connected with the people of God. Now, why this is so? Because this is a cosmic conflict. This is a pointer to where this, who is riding this empires. The woman is sitting on the empires, and we always see that they persecuted God's people. Egypt, we saw, persecuted God's people. Assyria, we see that they persecuted God's people. The third empire is the Babylonian Empire. See that the Fertile Crescent has further gone east. It has gone into the Persian Gulf, reached till there. And this is the Babylonian Empire, where again, the people of Israel were taken captives there, and they were treated, they were persecuted by the Babylonians, and God had dealt with the Babylon as well, and their emperor ceased. So you see, very popular name there, Nebuchadnezzar, from 605 to 562. And the fourth is the Medo-Persian Empire. It's gone further east now, into the upper part of Bactria and Parthia, the old, and even bordering on India. So the Persian Empire had the eastern edge upon India. So it's gone far east, and it has reached up to India, and you see a lot of popular kings there. Again, you see Artaxerxes and Darius and Cyrus, of course, the man who brought the people back. And often they also had very close relationship with, or they had dealings with Israel. And the final empire, or the fifth, or the sixth one is the Roman Empire. You see, so Roman Empire, what has happened is they have gone west now, and little bit to the south. So they have taken off over the very northern part of Africa and the west, and it's by far the biggest of all the known empires. So they had their headquarters in Rome. Egypt had it in Alexandria, I would say. And then Assyrians had Nineveh as their headquarters. Babylon had Babylon as the headquarters. The Persians has Susa, just a little east of Babylon, as their headquarters. And here we have the Roman Empire having Rome as the headquarters. So the headquarters have been shifted to west. And this is where we have this big names of Caesar when the time of Jesus were August. I left out Greek, right? Okay. I'm sorry. The Greek empire was left out. I'm sorry. There is Alexander there, so you can fill in the blanks. Okay. So this after the Greek empire, we have the Roman Empire, and Augustus Caesar, Tiberius Caesar, Claudius, Nero, who persecuted the Christians. So you see, why did I tell you all this? Is because there is this hatred for God's people, for God, and that is pervasive in these beast empires in the past. And God had periodically taken away their authority and replaced them. But there's going to be a final rebellion against God. And what God, Spirit of God, is trying to tell us is this rebellion against God is going to be culminated in the end times with this beast, which is explained in verse 11, that was and is not, even he is the eighth and is of the seventh. I'll explain that tomorrow as we proceed. So remember that this conflict is there today. Though the beast kingdom is not active today, the philosophy, ideology is very much there behind, very silently taking control over God's people, or trying to influence God's people, trying to persecute God's people. So help us to be, God help us to be aware of this and to be very alert. And always the command is get out of her and be separate. And that is why the doctrine of separation is very much a very relevant topic to discuss, and we ought to preach about it. We need to separate. Early times when in Kerala, when believers came out of nominal Christian, they were called Verbadgar. Verbad, Verbad means separation. There were people who separated themselves, and this is something very much necessary today, because devil is trying to say, don't try to separate, be there and try to practice your religion. God said, no, you can't do that. Just like he told Pharaoh, not one hoof can stay behind, because we are going to give everything that we have for the Lord. God bless.